Hey guys, sorry, but I had to break this into two parts because I had to leave and take care of some personal business. But we'll get back on this. And so far, all I've done is I've opened the 8-inch speaker template file that we created in part one. If you haven't watched part one, you should click on the link and go ahead and watch it first, because in part one we drew the vectors that we're about to use now in part two to create the tool paths to use in the CNC. So let's get started. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to click on the tool paths tab, and then let's click on the pen so we can turn off the auto hide function. So the first thing that I will do, I will insert this 15-degree engraving bit, and I will touch off on the center. I will draw center lines on this piece. I will touch off on the center. I will move to the extreme positions and make sure that my workpiece is aligned parallel with that axis. And once that's done, I will zero the X and Y to this piece. And while my engraving bit is still inside the machine, we're going to go ahead and engrave these 4 alignment marks. So what we're going to do is we're going to select this vector. And by the way, you can turn any of these on and off that you wish. I left this as we left the state of each layer in the last video. But anyway, we're going to select the first vector here, and we're going to go up to this toolpath operations, and we're going to click over here to the profile toolpath. We're going to cut this at a depth of 1 millimeter, and we are going to use the 15-degree engraving tool. So we'll select this. This says that this will take 2 passes, and I'm good with that. We're doing 0.5 millimeter per pass. And when we look here in this section for the machine vectors, we have outside as an option, and we have inside as an option, and then we have on. We want to select on the line because we're actually just going to engrave this with this toolpath. And the rest of this we'll leave alone. We don't need to do anything with it. And let's go down here to the name, and let's highlight that, and let's call this left align mark. And then we hit calculate. And you don't have to preview this, but if you want to preview the toolpath before we generate the rest, you can click on this play button, and you can see that first carve, which is really an engrave. And then if you left click on this 3D piece, you can move this around and look at it and see what you think of it. I'm satisfied with it. I think that that'll be a good mark. And we're going to go back to the 2D view now. And now we are going to select this toolpath this toolpath that we just created. And I like to select rename, and all of these are going to be aligned marks. So I'm going to copy this segment. Okay. And now this toolpath, I'm going to duplicate this toolpath 3 times. Okay, now we're going to rename this. We're going to call it top align mark. Okay, and what we're going to do is we're going to engrave this mark, and then we're going to go up here and engrave this mark, and then we're going to go here and engrave this mark, and then we're going to go down here because after we engrave, we're going to drill these holes. All right, so we're going to do the top, rename, and this will be the right align mark, and I'm just hitting Control V and pasting that after I type which one it is. Didn't mean to do that. And rename, and this will be the bottom. Control V, bottom line mark. And then now what we do is we go to the top of line mark, and we double click on this to open that vector, that toolpath that we copied. And if you look, this is the vector that's selected because we copied that toolpath using that vector. And now we're just going to click off of it, and we're going to highlight this top vector and hit calculate, because everything else is the same. Now, you don't have to preview these if you don't wish to, and I'm not going to yet. And I'm going to double click on the right line, go to 2D, and I'm going to select this vector and hit calculate. Then I'm going to double click on bottom line, and then I'm going to highlight this vector and hit calculate. Okay, so now if you want, you can look at these, hit the play button, and you can hit this button and preview all of them. And as you can see, those are going to be deep enough to give us some good alignment marks. And when we carve the speaker hole out, we'll be able to align from the inside and or the outside. So now let's go back to 2D view, and we are now finished with the alignment marks. And the next thing we want to do, we'll do the screw holes. And the screw holes, we'll close this. The screw holes, we're actually going to do a pocket toolpath. We can start on any of these because we're going to do a bit change, but it's nice to get in the habit of setting these up as if you had an auto tool changer, or in the order that the sequence that you would want to execute these toolpaths, because oftentimes you're not going to do a tool change. We are going to do a tool change though, so you can do whatever order you wish. I'm going to come down here though and select this first hole, and then now I'm going to go up here and I'm going to hit a pocket toolpath. And in the pocket toolpath, this workpiece is going to be 19 millimeters, and we want to leave a little bit, just enough that we don't carve through to our wasteboard. So I'm gonna tell it to go to a depth of 18.75 millimeters. If you don't have the correct bit already selected, you can remove this and then hit select, just like we did before. And well, here, I'll just show you this. We're going to use a 1.5 millimeter mill, but let's just hit remove. Okay, so this is probably what you'll start with. So hit select, and we're going to go to end mills, metric tools, metric end mills, and we're going to select the 1.5 millimeter mill and hit select. Okay, it says we're going to go 38 passes, and it says we're going to do 38 passes because of the settings for the bit. Let's go click on edit here. We're going to be carving this in HDF, so we can go a deeper pass than 0.5 millimeter. General rule of thumb is that people have a tendency to do a depth of half of the diameter, but in this case we're going to go a little bit further than that. We're going to say 1 millimeter per pass, and then once we select the depth pass of 1 millimeter, we hit OK. And if you look, now we have 19 passes, and hopefully this will be okay, and I'm pretty sure it will. But we're going to call this, let's call this mount hole, and then we'll add a 1, and I'm going to highlight this and hit Control C, I'm going to type in my 1 here, and then I'm going to calculate this toolpath just like before. And now I'm not going to preview this individual toolpath. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to the 2D view, and just like we did before, we need 8 of these, so we need 7 more. And we just right click, and we hit go to duplicate and left click, and then duplicate. So now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so now, just like we did before, we will double click to open this, and we will choose the next hole that we're going to carve in the sequence. We'll hit Control V, and this will be hole 2, and hit calculate. And then we go 2D view, same thing, double click. This will be hole 3, so Control V, 3, and this will be this vector, and hit calculate. And then now we go 2D view again. Now we go hole 4, which is going to be this hole. Again, double click, drag to highlight that, paste in where we copied our hole, or the word hole, mount hole, the label, and mount hole 4. So now this is this hole. So we select this vector and hit calculate. So now we have 4 of these. Double click, 2D, Control V, 5, and that will be hole 5, and then we hit calculate. And basically this is what we're going to do all the way through here. And so I'm going to spare you the rest of these. They're exactly the same, so I'll jump ahead in the video when I'm done, or speed this up. Okay, so now that we've edited all of these tool paths so that we have selected the correct vector, we can go here and hit preview all tool paths. And now you'll see your mounting holes are in the correct positions, and you should also notice that they're not going all the way through the blank. Alright, so now we have the mounting holes, we have our alignment marks, and the only thing left for this carve will be the speaker hole. So we go up here and we will highlight the vector for the speaker hole. We'll close this preview, and then this is going to also be a profile toolpath. And now we are going to cut again 18.75 millimeters. So we leave 0.25 millimeters, really just enough that we don't hit the wasteboard. And now we're going to change bits again. And when we change this bit, we're going to go over to a 1/4 inch. It'll be a 1/4 inch 2 flute end mill, and hit select. And as we see here, it will default to 3 passes, and that should be fine. But let's look and see how much we're taking per pass. And we are taking a 1/4 inch per pass, and I think that should be fine. And we have the vector highlighted, and then if we go down here and look at the machine vectors, we're still on the end. We're still on the line, and this is because VCarve remembers the last group of settings for your carves. And but now what we want to do is we want to look at inside, because we want our bit to be in here. We want our mill to be inside here. And now we will call this speaker hole. Okay, and now that we have the speaker hole, we can oh, there is another thing that you don't need to do it on this carve because we are leaving that 0.25 millimeters, but if you're cutting outside here especially, or something that doesn't have to it doesn't require a finish surface, and sometimes even when it does, it's necessary to add these tabs. And what happens when you select add the tab, which we're not going to use, of course, but when you hit add tab, this will be the length of the tab and then the thickness before it goes all the way through the bottom of the workpiece. So you can leave like 3 millimeter tabs, and then that way your blanks don't move around and the pieces that you cut don't come loose and move around and hit your mills or whatever. And then what you do is after you do your carve, you take a saw and you cut the rest of it with the saw, and then you just file it or sand it flat. But we're not gonna use tabs. And we're going to calculate that tool path. So now that we have all of these tool paths generated here, we're going to close this, and we are going to select the left, top, right, and bottom, because these are the vectors that these are the paths we want to carve first. Okay. And then we'll go up here to the Save Toolpath and click on this, and we're going to select Visible Toolpaths to one file. And this is going to take all of these 4 paths and merge them into one G-code file. And we will call this, we'll call it Speaker Align marks. Okay, and again, we can put it wherever we want, but we'll just call it that for now. And I've already done these before, but I'm going to go ahead and just select a new folder and save that G code in there. So now we're going to deselect these, and now we're going to do all of the mount holes. And we'll do the same thing. We'll do all of these together as one file. So we'll say Save Toolpaths, Visible Toolpaths to one file. And we'll call this Speaker Mount Holes. Okay. And save that. And then now we'll deselect these, and we'll select the speaker hole, and then we'll save that toolpath as speaker hole. So now those 3 toolpaths are ready, and if you have 19 millimeter thick material, you can run these in your machine. And the reason we didn't do these all as one merged file, we have tool changes. So we're going to insert the engraving bit, we're going to center the workpiece, and we're going to set our offsets for X and Y, and Z will touch off on the workpiece for the engraving tool, and then we will execute the speaker align marks. And if you want, you can put a number in there, but you can actually do them in whatever order you want, but this is my preferred order. And then the speaker hole, before we run this, the speaker mount holes, before we execute this G code, we are going to do a tool change, and we are going to insert our 1.5 millimeter mill, and then we don't have to move the X and Y. We already have the center set as our X and Y offsets. The only thing that has to change after this, we have to touch off on the workpiece again for the Z and set the Z offset, and then we will execute the speaker mount holes. And then once we complete that G-code, we will do another tool change, and we will insert the 1/4 inch end mill, and I'm going to use a down cut end mill, but we'll insert the 1/4 inch end mill. We will touch off on the top of the workpiece again for the Z, and then we will execute the speaker hole. And once we're finished with this, we will be done, besides the pushing everything out with that 0.25 millimeter leftover slither. And I wanted to point something out. If you were doing this, if you were going to carve this template and you knew you wanted the template to be 12 inches by 12 inches, and again, we can go to edit and job size and position, and this is the equivalent to 12 inches, 304.8 millimeters. If your workpiece is not going to be exact, okay, and this is something that I like to do, and I would have shown you on this, but we'll do that in another day. I like to make the workpiece slightly larger than what I'm going to have for a final carve, and then I will add vectors for the 4 sides or whatever I'm going to cut off. And then what that enables me to do, I can take whatever I'm using, and as long as I have center reference marks, the machine does not matter. It's going to cut based on that center position of our offset. So it doesn't matter. This piece could be 24 inches by 24 inches, and if we touch off on the center and we draw the square vector here, we can add that tool path so that if our piece is not 12 by 12, we can cut it into a 12 by 12 piece and not have to fool with cutting it again on a saw or whatever. But anyway, I just wanted to point that out. But that's the end of this piece, or this segment. The next segment will be the CNC machine, where we will load these tool paths, and we will touch off on the workpiece and carve. If you made it this far, it means that you watched the entire video, and I'd like to thank you for that. I hope that you enjoyed the video. I hope that you learned something from it and that it was able to help you with VCarve Pro. If you did enjoy it and you did learn anything from it, please hit the like button and consider subscribing so that you can get updates with any of my future tutorials. Consider sharing this video in your groups or with your friends, anyone that you think may enjoy watching the video and could benefit from it. Thanks again.